Welcome, welcome. We will be starting in a couple of minutes. Yeah, I see people are dialing in as we speak. Happy Wednesday, everybody. It is Wednesday, right? We have a lot of people going to IBC this week. We have couple of team members at CHESA going over today. David's gonna be going over. Are you what tomorrow, David?
Tomorrow morning. Yeah.
I know there's an army people of Adobe people going, right, Clayton?
Yep. Yeah, a lot of people going.
I will be posting a couple of IBC links later if you guys want to go visit with Adobe or Helmut.
Fun fact, already seeing a very familiar good friend in the crowd, Mr. Maciej Oakman, I believe local president of SMPTE in the Washington, D.C. area. Welcome, Maciej.
All right. I see some familiar faces as well. That's fantastic. Let's give it one more minute and we'll get started at 10:03 on Mountain Time. Guess that's 2 more minutes.
We finally got some rain out in New York yesterday, Lance. How are you guys doing out there? Still dry?
Denver's, yeah, this is a fantastic year in Colorado. We were in the mountains this weekend and it was 78 degrees and blue skies. It was gorgeous.
Yeah.
What's the weather in Germany, David?
It finally started to rain. We've been waiting for rain since like 3 months. And it looks like we're going to have a lot of rain in the next couple of days. And usually I would go for, oh no, it starts to rain. But now everyone's like, oh, finally, because everything's that dry. I've never seen it before. It feels like Spain.
Well, I think everyone can use some rain for sure.
Yeah.
All right, we're just about to get started. I will echo Amy's chat room there. Feel free to ask questions on the panel in the chat room. We want to make this as interactive as we can today. So please feel free, and I'll try to monitor that chat room for questions as we go. But with that, let's get started. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Lance Hugel. I am Chief Commercial Officer for CHESA, and I'm pleased to be hosting our webinar featuring Integrations Accelerate Video Workflows. Joining me are two great software partners of CHESA's. I'll start with David Merzenich, Managing Director of MoovIT Software Products and their Helmut platform. David, welcome.
Welcome. Thanks for the introduction. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining. Before we start, a short introduction. My name is David. I'm working as a Managing Director for MoovIT Software Products in Germany, and we are the ones developing Helmut4, which is a project management for Premiere Pro and After Effects. Before I joined the MoovIT company like 8 years ago, I was working for MMC Studios in Cologne, which is one of the largest studio facilities across Europe. And I was head of post-production, running the post-production with around 50 to 100 editing stations, connected to 3 different HD control rooms. And we did all of those productions like Germany's Got Talent, Pop Idol, The Taste, Got to Dance, and stuff like that. And so I've been on the other side. Now I'm on the dark side, and I'm happy to be here at the webinar. So hand over to Clayton.
Thank you, David. Nice to meet everyone. And I'm Clayton Dutton. I'm a former media and entertainment exec, worked at Discovery Channel for 17 years, served as Senior Vice President of Broadcast and Post-Production, as well as a number of VOD deals in my career. And then from there, I went on to help Viacom CBS launch a couple cloud channels, then decided, you know what, I'm a recovering executive. I think I'm going to go build stuff at a startup. So that's kind of where I landed at Frame. And then working with partners like Lance over at CHESA and David at Helmut, this is really what excites us at Frame.io. You know, we were purchased by Adobe late last year. One of the things that you're going to see today is we are not interested in becoming a closed environment whatsoever. And I'll just leave it there. We'll show the rest in pictures. Lance, back to you for a quick wrap up.
Awesome. Thanks, gentlemen. Yeah, let's get started. Integrations accelerate video workflows. On our prep call yesterday, we spoke about what modern integrations mean. And now platform integrations are clearly not a new concept, but they've evolved, and from just being point faces to actually being able to react to events. I think, David, that was the term that you used, and I can't think of a platform better than Helmut that can actually visualize that reaction of events. But any more thoughts on just the general theme of this new modern integration era that we're in?
Yeah, so basically what we figured out as a company, and we started as a system integrator back in 2012, was and is that the way integrations are seen has changed within the last years. So it's not longer a point-to-point direction where you need a developer to do everything, and if it's done, it's something only the developers understand or a few people in the company. And if you want to go for an advanced integration with multiple systems, you are lost in a long project, and sometimes it's a dead end and waste of time. What we have figured out is if you can enable the users and the technicians to build integrations based on the platform, like a platform, like everyone knows, like a smart home system, or like if this then that, where you have just events and you can react on those events and add the corresponding or the needed actions to those events, that is quite helpful. And what we did in the last few years was to create a platform around Premiere and After Effects that enables everyone to do that. So, and today we're going to show you how we do that with Fremo. And the integration we will see has been done by myself, and I'm not a developer. I'm the CEO. I'm a technician. Initially, I'm an engineer. So I'm into technical stuff, and I can understand that. I can even understand a bit of code and read that, but I'm not a developer. But today I'm going to show you how we did this and how I did this out of the box, thanks to the APIs we find at Fremo. And that's one of the most important things. Whenever it comes to integration nowadays, you need modern technologies, and Fremo provides everything that is needed: webhooks, modern technologies, a perfectly documented API, and maybe Lance can speak to that a bit about that. And that is quite helpful to do an integration. Maybe Lance, you want to, Clayton, you want to say something about that?
Yeah, you used the term yesterday, being able to enable creatives to do their own workflows, and I think you'll be able to show what that means during yours and Clayton's demonstration. And you mentioned the API stuff. I'll actually drop some links into the chat as well. But both Frame as well as Helmut provide some outstanding documented, just on open, readily available on their websites for their APIs, and you'll see just how easy it is to integrate. And just the visualization aspect that David will show too is just very powerful. But API from a systems integrator, we can't do anything without APIs, and oftentimes you're worried about where is the documentation and is it supported. So having something that's very well documented and supported is pretty key. Clayton, what are your any thoughts on that?
Yeah, the only thing I'll add is, one of the things that, as we're seeing the democratization of integration through solutions like Helmut, I mean, you wait till you see the solutions, phenomenal. We also have to keep in mind that we have very real requirements for security, for making sure we don't break things when we integrate or cause network traffic that no one knows about. So we also provide you in our API with the ways to monitor these types of things. So it's important to be able to democratize and be able to get moving, but being head of an operations team a lot of my career, I can tell you that we can be dangerous if left unattended without technical folks, network engineers, IT integrators, things of that nature. Back to you. Thanks, David.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right. Thank you. So I think we should right away step into it. Just to let you know, it will take around 10 minutes, I guess, to show the whole thing, maybe 15. You're more than welcome to ask any question at any time, because we want this to be an interactive session. If not, fine, we can have a Q&A session right after the demo. To do the demo, I will share my screen and to give you, so can you see my screen now?
We got you.
Right, is that the one with the login screen?
Yep.
Perfect, so maybe to give everyone an overview on what Helmut4 is, just a short introduction. As I said, it's a Premiere Pro project management from end to end. And when we decided to build that platform, we had one thing in mind. We wanted to enable the technicians and administrators to build agile, flexible, and advanced workflows while enabling the users to have a super simple web interface or interface to interact with the project. So, and that gap is quite hard to fill. What we came up with was the idea of adding workflows to any event. So whenever someone does something within the tool, like log in, create a project, open a project, delete a project, you can extend it with multiple workflows, right? And those workflows can be distributed to any workstation in the environment. This can be a workstation, an editing workstation. This can be any machine. It can be a virtual machine. It can even be a Linux virtual machine running FFmpeg. We don't care. And therefore, we have a distributed workflow engine, which is pretty unique in the market. So most of the workflow engines you find are server-based things, and most of the tasks are manually triggered. In our case, it's human triggered. Whenever you do something, you can trigger a workflow automatically, and you don't have to explain that to the users. And those workflows are distributed to the workstations, and therefore we can completely automate the user's work, which means we can automate every single step that usually would need to be a manual, right? We can automate that. And here's the first example. When I log into the tool with my credentials, and maybe I just show up my Finder window, you can see that there is just my local drive, and that's it. And when I log into that system, it connects to my client that is running, and it sends me notification within a second saying, please wait until your LucidLink volume is mounted. There you go. Then it starts my LucidLink application on my local machine. And if that's been done, it mounts the volume automatically by adding my user's credentials and all that stuff to LucidLink. So the interesting part is that I don't have to do anything, and I don't have to teach someone how to do that. I don't have to create a handout or have long training sessions for someone. I can even work with freelancers because it's super easy for them. Just explain them, use your credentials to log in, right? That's it. Good. That's the concept. I will show some of the workflows at a later stage and how we built them. But first of all, I want to just show the integration I did with Fremo because it's based on that concept and based on Fremo's API. So what we have here is, and let me just move that away for a second. Am I able to just, yeah, perfect.
And really quickly,
So,
David, just in case there's people on the call that aren't super familiar with Fremo, what you're seeing is Fremo. It's basically a content collaboration hub with deep integrations into the Adobe ecosystem, obviously, but then beyond as well. Just wanted to set that up real quick, David. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So this is my MoovIT Fremo account. There is just one project that's called Do Not Delete This, and this account is the one I'm going to use, and it's connected to Helmut4 now. What we need to connect is we need to create a token on Fremo's site that can be used to authenticate against Fremo, and that's super easy. If we go for settings, sorry, that was the wrong button. If we go for tokens, you can see that there is one token called David, and I've just created that one to allow me to call any API call, to run any API call whenever I want. So that's super simple. You just create a token, store it, and then you can use it. And on top, what I did was to, let me go back to the app. What I did was I've created a workflow that says get account and team ID from Frame, because if you want to have an integration running, you need to authenticate against Fremo with a token, and to find the right team and the right account, you have to have that account and team ID. But the nice thing is whenever I click on that workflow, it grabs the account and team ID from Frame, stores it in my variables, and I can use it from now on, which means it's super easy to change the account. I can go for another Fremo account, click on the button, and there you go, I'm connected. That's nothing a user would usually do, but it's just to explain how we do the things. So for those who are not familiar with Helmut4, this is the project page. From user perspective, you would only see projects. That's it. This is my admin view. So all of the menus would be gone if you log in as a user. So we have some action buttons in here to interact with the project. You can see the name, some information. You have a search filter and all of that stuff. If you want to learn more, feel free to reach out to CHESA to book a demo, or meet us at IBC, where we have more time to go through the whole suite. What I want to show is how easy it is to create a project for Premiere and at the same time create a project in Fremo. So we just click on Add Project. We go for Project 1 Webinar CHESA as an example. And here is a tag. A tag is a metadata field, and I use this one to make a decision within the workflow. This could be added automatically, but in this case, I want to show how it works. Whenever I use the tag frame, it will create the project in Fremo. I can use groups, categories, and templates to choose a predefined Premiere Pro project that I use to create a new project out of it. And if I click on Add Project, it will create the project in Frame.io and in Premiere at the same time on the storage that has been mounted automatically for me. So another nice thing is, from a user perspective, you just log in. Oh, snap. That's it with demos. Let me do it again. So
it always works. That one of the things I like
yeah.
that you're showing here, David, as you're getting that going, is that we're taking advantage of what people have to do. People have to create Premiere projects, or they have to create frame projects. So why not multitask when you're doing these things? These little button clicks at scale, as we all know, can save up to hours, weeks, or months of time.
Yeah, interesting. It doesn't work. So let me debug that for you for a second, because I just tested it a second ago. And we will see what it is and why is that happening. Add project, check, check. So this is the debugger, which is quite helpful. We have a debugger to understand if something goes wrong. It will just show the whole stream. And there you go, we can see that an action fails. And that action says Frame.io endpoint method, blah, 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 caused by unknown exception. So for some reason, the Frame.io API isn't available at the moment. So let me check that. We click on that button, we right away jump to the call, and that one says create the project. So Frame.io team ID is there, post is there, my token is there, and my project name is there. So everything should run as expected. Let me check if I need that VPN, and let me do it again. Sorry for that, guys. That happens with demos.
Well, it's pretty cool to see how quickly you're able to get the roots there.
Yeah, it's one of the things you need if you go for a lot of integrations. So let me check this again and see why it's not running. There you go. Now it has worked. Pretty good. So I think that was an issue with the Frame.io API. That can happen, you know, sometimes. But the nice thing is you can understand that by checking the debugger. So now what we have is a project in Frame.io out of the box, right? It includes a folder because I've designed a workflow that directly creates an export folder. At the same time, just to give you a clue of what Helmut did, is I now have a project on the storage within a specific structure that is called projects, evening news. Let me check that one where it is for you guys, evening news. And we have check demo frame 1. And within that one, we have a Premiere folder with a first project. There is a first backup that has been created for me with that has been renamed to backup, and there is a work folder. So everything's in place just by clicking on one single button saying create project. That's nice. So now both things, both tools, Helmut4 and Frame.io, work in conjunction. What I receive from the API is Frame.io project ID, Frame.io root asset ID, and Frame.io's folder asset ID, because I need that to send a file back to Frame.io whenever I do an export, right? That's super helpful. Whenever you call an API, it responds with a body, and you can extract information easily.
David, I love that. And I think it's a great example of, we get questions a lot in Frame, does Frame support metadata? Absolutely. Really, it's about requirements and things like that. But I think what David's showing you now is really good use cases of exactly that, right? We're nothing super complex from an API perspective, just taking advantage of existing opportunities to create, children tasks very easily and quickly.
And the acceleration part, I mean, all the folder structures, the structure, the naming conventions, all that done completely automatically without, user intervention. So that's a good example of the acceleration aspect of this.
Exactly. And one of the points here is that the integration is not a one-way ticket. As I said, whenever I click on whenever I add the tag frame, it creates the project. Whenever I add something different, it behaves in a different way. Helmut4 can do that based on categories, project names, groups, users, IP addresses, workstation names, maybe based on today's date. it doesn't matter. So in the very end, we use an API and another API, and we create building blocks in the middle, and we combine them in the way we need them to be combined whenever we want those workflows to run. So, and that's the difference to most of the things you have seen in projects, in integration projects. So here we go. The project's open. There is a first sequence inside of the project that has been renamed with the name I have added to the dialog. It's now called check demo frame 1, and there is a predefined sequence. I will import something into my project to explain the mechanism of adding assets and exporting assets. I've got some local files on my desktop. Whenever it's enough to just grab one. Whenever I add something to Helmut4, we react on that information because Premiere, sorry. Whenever Premiere receives a new file, it calls back with a callback function saying new item has been added, and we can react on that one with our own panel extension, and then we run a workflow, and that workflow again does whatever needs to be done. In this scenario, it checks the extension and it says needs to be transcoded because it's an M4V, and it needs to be stored in the right location, and it needs to be uploaded to Fremo, to the storage, and it needs to be renamed, for example. There you go. And now we have an asset that is inside of my project, and that project file is now living on my volume and no longer on the desktop, and everything happens automatically. Again, from a user point, it's super simple. Just drag and drop everything you want into the project. You can even import something that is not allowed, and it will inform you that you've imported something that is not allowed. And maybe I can do that real quick. Let me check if I got a text file or something. I think yes. Config, yeah. So maybe I got a text file. So if I import a text file, we react on that import. It checks the extension and it says, sorry, unsupported file format text. Please contact the admin. And what we do is we send an API call to Premiere to open the dialog. Again, another nice example of how easy it is to build an integration and interact with the user. So, but now back to Fremo. So what we did here and what I've prepared is whenever I create a marker in here, and I call it marker 1, and I go for marker from Helmut4 and export that file using our panel extension, adding an email address, and maybe we call it webinar export 1. Whenever I now click on export, it will export the file using an AME. In this scenario, it uses my local AME, but we can distribute that workflow to any machine thanks to the client, because the client can be attached to another workstation. So we have a distributed way of rendering sequences and compositions. And at the end of that workflow, it will upload the file to an S3 bucket, and then it will inform Fremo through an API call that this file has been added, and it will add that file to Fremo. So let's open up Fremo to see what happens in a few milliseconds. It will add a new file. There you go, new files added. That was fast because it was a short timeline. And if I click on that file, now we have our short timeline. And there you go. The file is there, and my comment has been added automatically. So from a user perspective, again, that's quite simple. Just click on export, add an email address, and there you go. You don't even have to add that address. All of the parameters provided through the panel extension can be defined by yourself. That means you can just have a button to export, or you can provide thousands of different metadata fields and send them to Frame if you want to. At the same time, I have sent an email to myself saying, hey, your file is ready for review and approval. Click on the link and it will point me to Fremo's link. So it can even be used by users that are not added to the account. Is that right, Clayton? Correct me if I'm wrong.
That is correct. Yeah, review links do not require a Fremo account. So absolutely. And just as a note, you could even do some HTML formatting for that email that David just showed you. If you wanted to add things like thumbnail and make it pretty. I love David's version because it's informational and I just need the info. Some of our creatives, though, as we know, like, a more aesthetically pleasing look.
Right. So, and now someone can take a look at the file. The review link has been created automatically, and we can see that in here. So the review link is there. The file has been attached to the review link. The media has been uploaded into the right folder. And if someone now checks the file, we have done something on top which is something we want to talk about. So at IBC, we're going to show a sneak peek of our new platform, which is, let me say, it's like an evolution of Helmut4. And that one will allow me to add stream workflows, the workflows we have inside of Helmut4, to any application. And in this scenario, we used Fremo's webhooks to interact with Helmut4. So we do the same things the way around. And here's one example. When I click on the file and add another marker, like marker from FrameIO, and I click on send, this one will be sent to my local instance immediately. And it's been pushed to my timeline because when I upload the file to Fremo, I send the sequence ID because I can grab the sequence ID from Premiere Pro and send it as properties to Fremo and add those properties to the asset. So there is hidden metadata that is not shown, which is super great. And you can see marker from Fremo. That's quite simple. So what we did is I now send a call from FrameIO, respectively, I hook up to the webhook to the new engine, and then what that one sends an API call to Helmut4. And the nice or fun about the fun thing is I'm running a local virtual machine inside of my computer. So FrameIO would never be able to reach out to that one. But within that virtual machine, I have another Helmut client that can execute something and run the workflow. Here's the clue. And that will enable you to add workflows to any application. It's really like a smart home system. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows how that works. You come home and your geolocation says David's at home. It opens the shutters. It switches off on the lights. It starts music just because you designed the workflow to be like that. And that's the same thing. I want to react on a comment. When someone adds a comment, please do something. Here's another nice example we did for the demo and for IBC. The developer that is developing the new platform is called Zevrin, and he calls himself Zev, so S-E-V. And whenever you type in Zev as a comment, it will replace Zev with handsome Zev. The interesting thing is here, what we do is we react on the comments, we take that information as a payload, send it to the engine. The engine says, oh, someone wrote Zev. This needs to be replaced with handsome Zev.
Yeah. And really quickly on that, David, we could just as easily have leveraged that same exact hook or something similar and done a translation to an AI engine, right? That was going to deliver the translated comment back in various languages. So
exactly, the sky is the limit. The idea is whenever someone works on a tool, react on the action. And that's possible because if you add an information in here, the information has been added and the task has been done. So why should we have another manual task to do something? It should immediately happen if you want it to happen. And that's what we provide from a platform perspective. And here's one of the last examples I want to show you is when I change the status from no status to approved, it will right away, and I have to be quick, it will right away.
I can switch to
yeah, do that. So you can see my local HelmutIO.
You tell me when.
Now.
Done.
It will right away queue a job on my local machine to export the sequence as a master file and distribute that one to the right channel. And if that's been done, it will even remove the file from FrameIO. There you go. That was fast.
Which, by the way, David, I love. Sorry to interrupt. The reason I like that is because a lot of our FrameIO customers are very, very storage conscious. They should be. We're all saving multiple copies to multiple locations today. So I love that workflow because you're saying I'm done with it now. Let's just remove it, move on.
Exactly. And just as a recap, those are just examples. It's all about what do you want to do if someone needs to upload a file to FrameIO? What do you want to do if someone clicks on approve? What do you want to do if someone adds a comment? It should not be a function that is predefined and you have to live with it. It should be more about you can decide what should happen. And that's the fun part of the way we do integrations and we see integrations. And here comes the last example. If I take a look at the project now, the project is done, switch back to my Helmut4, close the project. And the project's closed in a few seconds. You see that. Now, if I now run a workflow that deletes the project, this one will take a look at all of the files that are added that have been added to the project. It will delete those files. So we do housekeeping tasks inside of Premiere that can be predefined based on projects and project related assets in a nice way. And on top, at the very end, it will delete the project from Fremo. So click on that one, go to IO. It says found 2 assets. It will delete 1, and then it will delete 2, and then it will remove the project from Fremo. Simple as that. So, oh, no longer available. That's it. So what it's all about is integration should not be a one-way ticket. If there is modern technologies in place like open APIs with Swagger files, webhooks, and stuff like that, we can build really powerful integrations out of the box. And let me step into how I did that and how we do those things. We call those workflow streams, and a stream, as I said before, is attached to a trigger point. So one of the triggers we have is connected, as an example. And here's the one, the workflow that says mount Lucidlink volume on Mac. But let's step into the create project workflow, because that one is the one that shows the integration. It does a lot of things. We don't need to take care of all of them. There's one interesting one. This one creates the folder structure and the storage we have seen. This one sets all the Premiere Pro path settings and stuff like that. And as you can see, it is a node-based view with building blocks, predefined ones and custom-made ones. And here is a condition that says, whenever the tag matches frame, please do this. And here's one super nice thing. We have an HTTP request action. You can use that one to send an API call to any machine that allows you to send REST calls, right? So I use that one to talk to Fremo's API. So everything we need is the URL, which is documented in the online documentation, and the endpoint. And here you can see that I need a team ID to talk to the corresponding team. And that was the one I grabbed with the other workflow by using the token. And there you go. Now we have that ID. I post something, and here's a project name, and that project name comes from the payload I have sent to the workflow engine, and that name has been added to the dialog. Simple as that. So, and then it runs the call, and then I do extract some informations by using an extract action, a body, and an ID, and I store that one, and so on and on. Another nice call, this one creates a folder, and that folder is called exports. So as you can see, if I switch off that one and go for success action, and we can just do that and save it and create another project, it will now create a project that is not including the exports folder. So frame.
That's wonderful. While you're doing that, David, one of the things I'm sure you, as an integrator in your past, and Lance, I'm sure you live this. You know, when people ask if we integrate, you know, can I integrate Frame and whatever? The answer is almost always yes if both things have an API. But we all know that one of the toughest things about it is getting good operational requirements. What do you actually need? And almost always, it's either asset brokerage or information interchange. And these things are sort of 101 basic, really robust things on our API and most other vendors' API. So just a quick note there. Thanks, David.
Thank you very much. So now I can see that the folder is missing just because I changed the workflow within the last seconds. And that's super, super easy to be done. I could even add a wildcard that says whenever the frame is called frame minus export, it will create the export folder. Or I add a metadata field. Or I just go for if the user is David, the sky's the limit. And that makes it so powerful to build modern integrations that can be used in a way the customer needs them. So that's it, I guess. It took like 5 minutes more than expected. And if there are questions, feel free to ask.
No questions in the chat line, but one thing that I just came to realize is the third leg in the stool that always seems to be taken for granted is Adobe Premiere. And you couldn't do any of this if they had reciprocated APIs as well, both from a frame perspective and a Helmut perspective. So any comments on how relevant Adobe is? Obviously, they're very relevant, but their openness is critical as well.
Clayton, do you want?
David, I mean, I think Lance is more asking you about in terms of, but yeah, I can say this. I think we've demonstrated, and again, I cannot stress this enough. Everyone at Adobe wants everyone to hear. We're not interested in a closed environment. We're not interested in, obviously there are advantages if you're part of the Adobe ecosystem. I think everyone understands that, but we are delivering robust payloads in and out of the API so that you can do these types of really, they look very complex. They're actually not too hard, but it's just it's one of the best interfaces I've ever seen, David. Congratulations to you and the team.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much. And I did this on my own, so I'm not a developer, as I said before. It took me a Friday evening with a beer, like 3 hours or so to do that. But let me speak to Lance's question. So we are working closely together with Adobe since 10 years, maybe more. And what we figured out is that the openness Premiere and After Effects brings, and same as with Fremo, allows us to do those things. There is an extend script API inside of Premiere that allows me to do everything with Premiere. So we have even customers automating workflows completely from A to Z. So we start Premiere, we automatically import files, we automatically put them on the timelines, we automatically add markers and thumbnails. We can even delete files, tracks from timelines if we click on export to create clean feeds automatically. And that's the beauty of finding modern APIs. It's always like this. Oh, there's an API, great. It means like we can do everything. That's not the truth, because you need to have something that connects it, right? Otherwise, you use a toolkit to like connect two things with in that way. And what we do is, and that's the beauty of Helmut4. What we do is we take all of those portions and put them into one platform that allows you to interact with everything, right? Yeah.
We do have a couple questions in the chat, in the Q&A panel. One is, any way to recover deleted project?
From Helmut4 or from Frame?
Don't know.
So in case of Helmut4, that's super simple to be answered. Whenever you create a workflow that deletes a project or housekeeps a project, and let me show one of them. This one is delete project workflow. We have a node that says get assets from database. So we kick a workflow that runs based on the project file. Then we take a look at the inside of the project, and then we can have a workflow based on each of the assets that are found. And we iterate through the list. And while doing this, you can use one of the building blocks. You can delete a file, or you could go for copy a file instead of deleting a file, right? That would mean, first of all, if someone clicks on delete, just move everything to a new location, like a trash, and then move the project file to another location, relink the files, and take it away from the user by putting it to another group. Let's say the user has no access to. And there you go, the project is deleted, but it's still there. From an admin perspective, you could easily log in and see all of the groups, and you would see the groups of the deleted projects, and click on another workflow that just recalls that action and puts it back into the group and copies the files. Simple as that. If Fremo allows us to do similar things, like archive a project, let's say, and maybe Clayton can speak to that, it will be the same thing. We just send a call that archives the project instead of deleting the project, and we can run another workflow based on a cron job, like within 30 days from now or 60 days from now, that will delete archive projects automatically, so no one has to take care of that.
Yeah, speaking on the Frame.io side, currently in our API, you would have to contact your customer success manager to delete a project. So in this case, a project is what you're seeing on the left highlighted there, which says frame export to. It is recoverable, but you would need help in that. We are actively developing things now that will allow the users to do that themselves. Additionally, we have an inbound archive project, which is not currently part of our API set as well. But again, that is actively being changed right now. I do not know to what degree yet. I can't actively say, not reliably.
I think we can even use the custom actions inside of Fremo to archive the project.
We could
because
yeah.
we can trigger custom actions. There you go. So it will be the same approach. Instead of deleting the project, it will be archived, and in Helmut4 it will be archived and moved away from the user. So it looks like it's been deleted, but it's not. That's
one trend that we're seeing with customers is actually archiving at the point of ingest. So that way you also have a immediate disaster recovery copy, plus it's already on a preserved tier. So we're doing it at the point of ingest. We're finding these as a very common practice now.
Yep.
Makes sense.
And back to what David was saying, one of my favorite things to do is, look, but most of you here are probably managed or actively managing large media supply chains or post houses, broadcast. It's same thing. At the end of the day, what do we know? Maciej and I, he's on the call, we worked on this discovery for over a decade. It's very difficult to get creatives to follow workflow. What Helmut's showing you here with Frame.io and Premiere is that let them work the way they're going to work. you know how they're working, you can do the piping and wiring in the background to make sure everyone gets what they need and people can still work somewhat independently. I mean, there needs to be a workflow, obviously, but you can start to let people be a little bit more flexible and pick the battles that matter.
Absolutely.
Any other questions or comments so far? We do not have any in the chat line, but thank you, David. Thank you, Clayton. David, have a fantastic IBC.
Thank you very much.
And in the chat, I sent some links on the APIs, some IBC information, so feel free to go to those at your leisure. Amy's recording this event as well, so we will repost this for future repurposing and sharing. So, but thank you, everybody. I appreciate you participating on the webinar, and look forward to next time. Take care. See ya.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.